There's something terrifying about loving someone so deeply that your entire identity starts revolving around them. Not because they asked you to, not because they controlled you, but because somewhere along the way, your mind quietly decided, they are the only place I feel alive. A few years ago, I knew a guy named Daniel Mercer, and if you saw him back then, you would have thought he had the perfect relationship. Beautiful girlfriend, perfect photos, late night drives, matching playlists, the kind of love people envy online. Her name was Sophia, and Daniel loved her in a way that looked beautiful from the outside, but terrifying from the inside. At first, it was normal. He just wanted to spend time with her constantly. Every message from her made his entire mood better. Every laugh felt addictive. Every moment without her felt empty. But slowly, something changed. Sophia stopped becoming part of his life. She became his entire emotional world. And the dangerous thing about emotional dependency is that it disguises itself as love. Nobody notices it happening, not even you. At first, you just care deeply. Then one day, their mood controls your mood. Their attention controls your self-worth. Their distance feels like physical pain. Daniel used to wait for her texts like his life depended on them. If she replied with short answers, he couldn't sleep. If she sounded distracted, his anxiety became unbearable. If she went offline suddenly, his mind immediately imagined losing her. And the terrifying part? Sophia wasn't toxic. She wasn't manipulative. She wasn't cruel. She genuinely loved him. But no human being can survive becoming someone else's emotional oxygen. One night, I remember Daniel calling me at almost 3 a.m. His voice sounded broken. He asked me, "Do you think it's possible to love someone too much?" I laughed a little and said, "That's not a real thing." But he stayed quiet. Then he whispered something I'll never forget. "I don't think I exist anymore when she's not around." That sentence genuinely scared me, because that wasn't love anymore. That was psychological dependence. And people don't realize how dangerous emotional dependence becomes until the relationship starts changing. A few months later, Sophia got accepted into a university in another city. It wasn't permanent, just 1 year. But the moment Daniel heard the news, something inside him collapsed. Most people would feel sad. Daniel looked terrified. Because distance to emotionally dependent people doesn't feel like space. It feels like abandonment. The strange thing was, nothing had actually gone wrong yet. Sophia still called him, still told him she loved him, still made plans for their future. But Daniel had already started suffering from a loss that hadn't happened. Every night he imagined conversations that never occurred, breakups that never happened, goodbyes that existed only inside his head. And slowly, he stopped reacting to reality. He started reacting to his fears. That's one of the cruelest tricks the human mind can play. Sometimes people don't suffer because something bad happened. They suffer because they're terrified it might. And eventually, the pain of imagination becomes stronger than reality itself. At first, he tried pretending everything was okay. They promised to stay together. They called every night, texted constantly. But slowly, reality started destroying him. She became busier, replies became slower, phone calls became shorter. Normal things, healthy things. But Daniel's brain didn't experience them normally. Every delayed reply felt like rejection. Every canceled call felt personal. Every moment she sounded tired felt like proof she was losing feelings. And once emotional fear enters a relationship, the mind starts creating monsters that don't exist. Daniel became paranoid, not because Sophia was cheating, because fear changes perception. He started checking her activity constantly, overanalyzing every word, imagining scenarios that weren't real. And the more anxious he became, the more pressure Sophia started feeling. That's the tragedy of emotional dependency. The more terrified you are of losing someone, the more your fear slowly pushes them away. Then one night, everything collapsed. Sophia called him crying. She said she loved him, but she felt exhausted. Not exhausted from loving him, exhausted from feeling responsible for his emotional survival. Daniel didn't yell, didn't get angry. He just sat there silently while she spoke. And according to him, that silence felt worse than death. Because deep down, he already knew what was happening. People can carry love, but eventually they break under the weight of being someone's entire reason to live. A week later, she left him. And honestly, that's when the real horror began. Most heartbreak stories talk about sadness, but nobody talks about identity withdrawal. Because when someone becomes emotionally dependent, losing a relationship feels like losing part of your psychological structure. Daniel stopped functioning normally. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think clearly. But the scariest part wasn't the pain. It was the emptiness. He told me his apartment no longer felt real without her voice inside it. Music sounded empty, movies felt meaningless, even time itself felt slower. And one night, he admitted something disturbing. He said, "I don't think I miss her anymore. I think I miss who I was when she loved me." That sentence changed the way I understood relationships forever. Because maybe emotional dependency isn't really about another person. Maybe it's about using someone else to escape emptiness inside yourself. And the terrifying thing is, most people don't notice they're doing it. They call it love. They call it passion. They call it soulmate connection. But sometimes, it's just fear of being alone disguised as romance. Months later, Daniel slowly recovered. Not because he stopped loving Sophia, but because he finally understood something most people never do. Love should make your life more beautiful. It should never become the only reason your life feels worth living. Because the moment someone becomes your entire emotional world, losing them doesn't just break your heart, it breaks your sense of self.